Hello everybody and welcome back to the Retro Recall. I hope you're doing awesome. Today we have a laptop in front of us that was a $5 purchase. That's right, this was not a machine that was donated. It was not found in e-waste. It wasn't on the side of the road saying help me. None of that. This was literally a machine that I saw online. It was $5 and I went, you know what, $5, let's do it. I almost thought, just give it to me. But anyway, $5 made the person happy. And I have no idea if it turns on. I haven't done anything with the machine. The real attraction for the machine for me was the power cord and, of course, the special surprise of the docking station that came with it. And I realize these are only compatible with so many machines. However, I have some of those machines. So to me, that was worth the $5, specifically if it works. Now, can we say, was the $5 worth it? Well, let's find out right now. Okay, let's go ahead and do a quick overview of this machine. As you can see, it's an IBM ThinkPad prior to when Lenovo had purchased the branding from IBM and took over the line and started branding it Lenovo. And I mean, it has the typical IBM coating finish on the top of it. The machine is quite dirty. I mean, you can see when I just do this with the wipe, the difference in the, it just crazy. And we'll do that on this episode. I think it's important to give it a good wipe and give it a good cleaning just to see what we can do to help it out here. But yeah, so I mean, this machine is an IBM ThinkPad, which and anyone knows I just love ThinkPads, and I have a few of them. So we have our front latch on the right-hand side. Now, some of these machines did come, well, not some of, the newer machines I found came with the two latches. Something about opening it just with one side, creates that bend twist factor. I realize that, you just use your other hand, but not a lot of people do. You see that thumb, you raise it up and you're good to go. But again, I mean, ThinkPads are tanks anyway, but it's just, just interesting to see just the one latch versus the two. And then the front here, we have an infrared port in the front, which is technology, quite frankly, I never ever utilized. I know that infrared was available in printers and other peripheral devices. However, that's not something that I had used much. And then this machine has Wi-Fi. It has the front switch for on and off. This is pre-button or function FN keys on the keyboard, which would activate and deactivate functionality within the machine based on quick keys on the keyboard. And in this machine here, it does come with the front switch. Let's just go to the right side of the machine now. Yeah, that made a huge difference just on the cleaning the machine. Okay, on this side here, we have, which is our hard drive in our machine. So we have a 2.5-inch notebook hard drive that's in there. And you notice the front cover is missing. And it's literally just missing. It doesn't look like anything's broken there. Any plastics are broken. I know it looks like this in the corner, but it does not. It must be part of the design of the plastic. But it's just missing. So not something too difficult to locate if needed. And then we have a CD-RW and DVD-ROM drive that's here, Lenovo. And it looks like it's modular as well. Modular implying we can take it out and swap it out with another type of device. So you have a different type of media bay, or in this particular case, you could use another battery and things like that. And if you're on the road doing a lot of that, then you would use that. But that's a great feature. I love that feature in any sort of notebook. Doesn't matter the brand. When I had done the Inspiron 5100 review there, it doesn't have a modular drive, but, being such a thick machine and such a power hungry machine, it would have been nice to have that so that you could hot swap a battery in there. And then we have USB ports on the side here as well as our Kensington lock, that the port right there. And on the back, we do not have any sort of connectors here on the back. We do have the battery module here. Oh, sorry, out of frame. We have the battery module that's here. That just comes right out by just ejecting it using the bottom key on the key or bottom latch. And then we have our power adapter. Now, Lenovo had utilized this form factor of power adapters for quite a while. And then we have our exhaust for our CPU. Now on the other side here, we have more CPU cooling action going on in this corner. So this entire corner is CPU related, which is great. Now I said that's the back is the exhaust. I'm still going to stick to that. This is probably the intake on this side, as there's nothing on the bottom here for it to go through. And then we have an external SVGA, or external for CRT or any other sort of monitor or a projector or anything you're going to hook up there, which is always great to have on the machines, pretty standard. And then we have a dual combo type networking modem dial-up. So we have a modem that's in here. No idea what modem is in here. And then the same thing with the Ethernet, I would guess. Given the age of the machine, just by looking at this, I would say that's probably a 10100 connection and a 56K modem, but I've been known to be wrong before. We'll see. And then, of course, the indicator lights on the outside. It's just really neat to see. And IBM was very business-centric, for corporations and what have you. So, having all these indicators, these lights, and all these good things are definitely key to that market. And then we have our microphone and our headset jacks, and these are color coded on the outside, IBM branding colors, of course. And then we have another USB. Now, I don't know if these are USB 1, USB 2. I have no idea, but we'll check into that. And then we have our PCM CIA slot for the different types of PCM CIA cards. These are for the expansion cards. So this was the way we expanded notebook PCs back in the day. If USB was, still around, just relatively infancy, and PCM CIA cards were, taking a long time to pass on because we had a lot of legacy. Specifically, we had different ports that you would use that expansion for. Okay, let's just flip that around there and plant it down and get it all kind of sorted out here. So again, I made notice, and I'll say it again, is that this machine is quite filthy. Obviously, this was quite used, whether it was in a business environment or in a home office sort of environment, and the user just didn't want it anymore. Now I have no idea if it turns on, but nice to see at least the hard drive still in it. So we'll see. We'll flip it on and see. But again, $5, if it doesn't work, then it's going to be a short video for sure. But again, being able to have that power adapter as well as that docking station is really cool. I'm going to put the machine away for a second. We won't bother turn that on just yet. We're going to take a look at that docking station as I was referring to earlier. So one of the nice things about Lenovo, or I gotta stop saying that just for the years and years of saying it, but IBM was their docking stations, and I know Dell also was very, very prominent in the market for their docking stations, and usually governments and businesses and big offices and corporations. And then you would just take your laptop home, depending on the executives and what have you, if they were given a notebook or not, and then they'd come back to the office, just plop it right in nice and easily, and just pop the machine like this, and it's just easy. You just pop it down, you're literally done. It's mounted now, and everything would be up on your external keyboard, external mouse, your external monitor, and you'd utilize the hardware outside of the notebook. And that's how you'd go about your day. Generally, this would be in some sort of enclosure where the monitor will be sitting on top of, and all those good things. And then, of course, you just eject it like that, and it releases the latch on the bottom of the machine, which I did not go over in detail. However, you can see that it just has the docking port, the battery that we talked about, and doesn't seem to be a lot of user accessible user accessibility to the bottom. For example, if I wanted to stick more memory in it or what have you, definitely you'd have to think about how you're going to do that based on the manual or any sort of guides online. And whereas the Dell that we had just done in the last video had the expansion ports on the bottom, which were user accessible, which were very friendly and good. So let's jump back over to the docking station itself. And again, just in itself is good looking. Typical IBM branding. Love that IBM ThinkPad logo. Have for many years. I mean, you've seen some other ThinkPad, the T42 and the 380XD machine that I've done a review, and I still have a few ThinkPads around that we can definitely talk about in future videos. So it just gives you instructions here how to mount the machine onto the docking station. Pretty straightforward. You know, pop it down, go until it latches. Don't be ripping it off or prying it off. Make sure you use the eject button. And no doubt when this is plugged in, that it would give you the indicators of when, you know, it's on and off, and you can unmount it or undock it or what have you. Now, one thing I'm noticing just as I'm talking about this is, and I haven't seen it on the laptop yet, is the Lenovo branding right here. This is like, we have an IBM ThinkPad logo with the Lenovo logo on the docking station. So that's telling me that this docking station was literally on the cusp of the branding exchange from, you know, going from IBM ThinkPad to Lenovo ThinkPads. And ThinkPad is such a monument staple in the notebook industry. IBM has such a high-end reputation, and you know, Lenovo was conscious of that when they were taking over that line of business from IBM. IBM is still around today, obviously, but again, just Lenovo. It's interesting to see it on the machine here, and so you have all the different latches and all those good things for the notebook. And then up top here we have our power button. Pretty straightforward. You pop it in, and you would just plug your power into this. You wouldn't need any sort of power plugged into the ThinkPad as well as the docking station. My understanding is it would pass right through to the connector here into the notebook and work no problem. Now that said, I'm looking at the back of the laptop here real quickly, and I'm seeing a pass through here in the docking station on top of the power. So I'd be curious to see if it actually does what I just said. Most docking stations, you just plug in. That's the whole purpose of it. You plug in the docking station, it's all mounted, and you plug the laptop in, take it out, and it will still power obviously off of the battery. And so let's continue on and look at the back of the docking station. One thing I want to just say, I just love this wedge design, specifically if you were docking and you opened up the laptop and were using it, or you know, if it's, you know, depending on where it is for a thinner profile, obviously the components are all stored within here, mounting and running through this port here into the laptop. But having it specifically in this form factor just makes it a thinner profile on the front, specifically if you were putting it under some sort of dock or some sort of mounting station. Okay, let's look at the back and see all the goodies we have in the docking station. So let's go, you know, the opposite way. Let's go right to left. So we have our power here. The reason I'm even doing what I just suggested is because I wanted to show that pass through here. So on the back of the machine itself, if I put it on there, the machine is, the wire is perfectly aligned right here to come through. So I'd be curious, like I mentioned, if that will work. And then we have our VGA or SVGA port out. We have our modem and our Ethernet replicated here. We also have a PS2 port now that's being created that was not on the laptop itself. So the docking station now is adding a port in that technology via the inside components here to allow you to hook up a, you know, legacy PS2 keyboard or mouse. So definitely great to see that on here. You know, we're supporting mid technology here. You know, we still have a modem in here. We are introducing the PS2 into the dock, but it's still the modem is still on the ThinkPad itself, and then also the PCMCIA, as I mentioned. But now we're starting to get a territory of 4 USB ports, and you can see my hands how dirty they're becoming just by handling all this stuff. So it'll be good to give this a good cleaning. But definitely a nice array of ports. Now, one thing I'm noticing deleted from the ThinkPad as well as the docking station is a parallel port or another serial port. Now, there are USB devices that allow you to connect into an adapter going from USB to parallel or USB to serial. But again, just interesting to see that we don't have these on this. Now, it's possible that other docking stations had that as part of it. So definitely interesting to see. Technology was such a race. I'm sitting here talking about this and, the what ifs and what we had back then and what we have now. But just looking at this, it's just interesting to see because of all the changes in such a small period of time. And then we have all of our information on the bottom, just your typical Lenovo, well, it's Lenovo branded, but all of your, information regarding the power source and all that stuff. Okay, I'm going to put that aside. Now, the power brick is just a standard power brick for Lenovo. I mean, pretty straightforward, nothing fancy about that. And then our barrel connector, power connector that will plug into that, no problem. So I'm going to go ahead and get that plugged in, and we will get the machine, the good old ThinkPad, and cross our fingers to hope it will fire back up. Okay, here we are with a different angle, just giving a little wider view into, so we can make sure we get the screen put in. And so let's go and open this up, and here we are. First glance at the Lenovo, or I should say IBM, but it's both. It's a Lenovo IBM ThinkPad. And so I'm definitely correct in the sense that this is definitely in the middle of the transition with branding to the point where it just came up, just says ThinkPad only here instead of the IBM logo being there. So at first hand, I mean, outside of it being completely filthy, you can see again on my hands, it's quite dirty. It's a T60 machine. So the T-series machines were definitely aimed at the business commercial market for sure. Their ThinkPads, their T-series were definitely workhorses, but also just the way they're built. I mean, they have roll cages in them. They have certain flexible points in them. They have the solid metal hinges here, and that's what gave them such a good reputation. Even way back when in my my 96, 97 machine. And, that's the 380, and it's just crazy to see these things. Okay, so let's go over the laptop itself. So it looks like a 14-inch form factor. I believe these came in 15-inch as well. The 15.4 would have been the measurement of and this is 14.1 inch screen. And then, so we have our Lenovo T60 up here, the branding with T60. We have all of our indicators here. So we have our Wi-Fi, our num lock, caps lock, hard drive indicator, power turn on and off indicator, charge indicator, plug-in indicator, and hibernation or sleep indicator is what is there. And you have your beautiful, notorious keyboard. Here we are, how old this machine is, and it just feels great. So still just full of spring action. And, I'm not feeling, outside of the dirt and gunk, I'm not feeling anything on this machine that any of the keys that are having any issues, so which is really good. And that's one thing I can say about all my Lenovo's. No matter how many times I've used them for how many hours, work hours, I've never had an issue with any of the keyboards or having to replace them in my experience. So here we have a quick access to the mute, volume up and volume down for the machine, and the ThinkVantage button, which would be the IBM access or the quick access to different functionalities of the machine. I believe these are software driven, based on what the OEM software that gets installed as part of, whether it's part of the OS restore information or CD, or it's an add-on to it. And then we have our famous track point here, nub here, and again, it's quite dirty. I don't have a replacement for this actually. The ones I have are for older models. So I have to get that replaced to kind of restore it and bring this beautiful machine back to its glory. And I'm really hoping it turns on. And then in here we have just our keyboard, our left and right click mouse for if we decide to use a trackpad or track point. And then we have our trackpad down here, which is clearly well used with our left and right buttons. And yeah, I mean, they seem pretty good for what it is. And then we have, so the processor is indicating it's an Intel Centrino Duo CPU in here, and that would have been more of the mobile type of machine, more streamlined, better cooling, lower voltages required to power. Now it says designed for Windows XP, so I'm thinking that that's what's going to be on this machine, if any operating system at all. Again, not knowing there's a hard drive inside of it, but not knowing if that's going to spin up or if the user just, had an issue with it, or if it even turns on. Keep in mind, this is $5. And then, so it says also Windows Vista capable. My experience, I mean, I know Vista is just like in the same bucket as Millennium Edition, Windows ME. I will say that when I see the Vista compatible or capable, I didn't always trust that. I will be honest. I'll fight for Windows Millennium. I will fight for and say that was driver related, a lot of the issues. With Vista, there were definitely issues with that operating system, specifically around being so resource intensive, and drivers were so important depending on the hardware you were doing. And, when you had these stickers coming out on these machines, some of the manufacturers were getting ahead of themselves and popping in those stickers, for branding, marketing, and getting the machines out. And then we have the famous IBM ThinkPad moniker here, which is amazing. Okay, now the truth. Let's hit the power button. We have power. I'm hitting the blue. There we go. So our screen's on. I'm going to zoom in here a bit just so everybody can see the screen fine. Okay, it says error, expansion ROM not initialized, PCI on motherboard, bus 0, device 0, function 0. This is after I've hit the Think Vantage button here, or Think Vantage button, because I'm trying to get into the IBM BIOS or CMOS. Let's hit escape, see what happens. And we have nothing. I hit Control-Alt-Delete. It was responsive. Let's just see if it works again, or it doesn't work again. Let's just see if I can get into that. I heard that it says initialize and LAN adapter's configuration is corrupted or has been initialized. The boot agent cannot continue. That's fine. See, expansion ROM not initialized. I am wondering if there's a CMOS problem here, or a BIOS problem, if we need to go down the road of reflashing that. And remember, both times we've done this was because I've pressed the Think Vantage button. I'm just going to give it a few more moments here just to see if it does come out of this, what it's trying to do its initial boot up here. Okay, I'm going to do a Control-Delete again, and it will respond. And see if it just boots. So I can't get into the ThinkPad, the ThinkPad IBM CMOS here. Let's see if it does boot into anything. So the hard drive is spinning up now. It says the boot agent cannot continue. LAN adapter's configuration is corrupt again. Yeah, expansion ROM not initialized. PCI on motherboard. Definitely have an issue with this machine. Let me just do some quick research on this, and I'll be right back. And we're back. All right, let me bring everybody up to speed as to what has been going on over the last real-time hour or so. So it seems that the ROM on the Intel PXE boot for the network card, it got corrupted somehow. And the only way to resolve that, I thought it was a CMOS problem, Lenovo one, and I was able to get into the, based on the research, I was able to hit type F12 at the beginning of the screen, and I was able to get into the boot menu. So naturally, I chose the hard drive. Nothing happened. It just sat there and just blinking cursor. The system wasn't, frozen by any means. It was fully responsive. However, it just wouldn't do anything. So I restarted again, hit F1 to go into the CMOS, and I disabled all the reference to the network card. Didn't make any difference. Still had error coming up. So I went and created a bootable USB using Rufus, and I was able to locate a very old bootutil.exe file, command file from Intel. If you go to their site right now, it's mostly aimed at the newer systems, not the older stuff, specifically DOS. So I was able to get the file copied over on the bootable. I popped it in, I ran the command, told it to reset the ROM on the Intel card, and bam, it fixed the problem with regards to the network card. Now I'm here and the system still would not boot. It just sat there and would not, it seized the hard drive, but there was no way I could boot from it. I could boot from the USB stick, no problem. I could see the other boot devices, so the C drive as well as the CD or the optical drive. So I decided to pop in my Windows XP Professional disk just to see if it would do anything, and sure enough, I was able to utilize the fdisk utility, for lack of a better term, to be able to to configure the drive in such a way, wipe the partition, which looked, I don't know if it's corrupted or not, it just didn't look right. So I wiped it, I put it new as a new partition and formatted it. So Windows is currently installing, and the files needed for the Windows XP Pro install. So hoping that we get this installed on the computer and the computer will self-boot once it's installed. So we will fast forward to Windows XP installed on this machine. And here we are with a fully installed operating system, the Windows XP Professional on the ThinkPad T60. And we've been able to get it all up and running, which is really good, and even activated, for the record. Got to keep it above board. So under my computer, I did, let's just kind of, go through the system real quickly here. But we do have a Windows XP Professional. We've installed the Service Pack 3, and it's an Intel Core Duo CPU T2400 running at 1.83 gigahertz. And the memory itself, it's showing 1.5 gigabytes of RAM. I believe it's actually 2 gigabytes, but 512 meg, I believe, is dedicated to the onboard graphics. So under hardware, there's going to be a couple drivers that I didn't install. I mean, that's the Ethernet controller I just didn't install yet. But going through the system itself, I mean, we have, a pretty capable system that we have. So under display adapters is just built-on graphics in this particular model, but I believe this also came with dedicated ATI Radeon graphics at the time. So definitely an option. But I'm happy with the fact that on our $5 machine that we have what we have. And then, of course, the CD-ROM, DVD combo drive, the CDRW DVD combo drive. And then we have our infrared installed, all those good things. And, sure enough, it's our ThinkPad modem, but I believe that's the 56K modem. And then monitors, just your standard laptop panel. Network adapters, we have the wireless network I did get installed. Again, I just did not install the Ethernet controller just yet. We have our PCM CIA adapters, which is installed, our processor, which is what I had mentioned earlier, a dual-core or Intel Core Duo CPU, T2400, running at 1.83 gigahertz. And I will say this computer is very snappy. I know it's a fresh install of Windows, but just look at it. It's just amazing that we have this up and running. It's just crazy. And then sound, video, game controllers. I mean, just your legacy controllers, but it is a SoundMax integrated digital HD audio. It doesn't sound bad for what it is. I mean, unlike the Dell that we did a review on, and I constantly said the speakers were just terrible. This here, I mean, it's not trying to be what it's not trying to be. It's not trying to be a desktop replacement necessarily. It's not a big gaming rig. It's not, it doesn't have all those conveniences. And so, it sounds just fine for what that is and what I'm expecting when I see the machine. So, it looks good. And then, of course, we have all of our USB information there. So, that's the system properties of this computer. And, the fact that we have this computer from the thrift shop for $5, because it probably, couldn't turn on. They probably flipped it on and saw that it, couldn't work. And, they weren't able to get past that networking issue at the very beginning that I, again, mistakenly thought it was the CMOS problem, when in fact it was actually something to do with having to reflash the chip using the Intel boot utility in DOS. And so we have it up and running now. We have the operating system fully installed and stable. It's running nice and cool. I mean, we're not doing a lot of things on it right now. Again, it's just really cool to see this up and running for what it is. So I'm going to go ahead and get this machine all cleaned up. As I mentioned before, it is quite dirty, and it would be nice to get the system really all cleaned up. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. Now here we are back after a solid cleanup of this amazing machine, and just look at that. I mean, look at the dirt that came off this machine. Just absolutely filthy between the wipes, and I like to use the alcohol wipes to really get in there and clean it. And even though you think you have the cleaning done, you can always go over it one more time. And I did that a couple times just to get a good thorough scrubbing on that. And then for all the different, nooks and crannies and crevices along the machine, I use the spray isopropyl alcohol, and I also use a nice soft tip toothbrush, and that's quite dirty. So I'll just clean it afterwards, before the next cleanup session with another machine. And I mean, this machine turned out very, very, very well. Everything's very nice. Even the coating on top. Usually the ThinkPad's coating on top really, scratches up or wears out. I know on my 380XD, I had to remove it because it just degraded beyond repair. And, that we're sitting here now with this T60, and it's really awesome. And then for the screen, microfiber, and then different cleaners as well for the screen, like LCD spray cleaner and things like that. And then again, those are my wipes. So yeah, let's look inside. There we are. For the machine, how old it is, it's just really, really, really awesome. If you remember, there was this layer of caked on grease, and now this just feels so good to touch and awesome. I mean, I think this is just fantastic. Let's just fire it up again and get right into the operating system again. But I mean, to have a system like this that is literally just sitting there on a shelf, it's worth the time if you want to get more of a retro PC for, whether it's going to be for gaming or something that you want to do. Definitely worth the investment, I think, if you see something like that, of time. So, the $1 million question: was the $5 ThinkPad worth it? Absolutely. I think this machine turned out quite well. It's just absolutely stunning. It works beautifully. There's absolutely no issues with the system now that we have everything installed and everything up and running and configured. Yes, there's some drivers to fix up, but that's no problem. We'll get that done. And so if you see a $5 machine out there, take the risk, if you have the skill set. If not, there's definitely lots of people out there that can help you with stuff like this to get it up and running again. And then you'll have a perfectly good working machine that, whether it's going to be your retro gaming or some of the older pieces of software if you want to use them. But I mean, even putting a late model or a different type of operating system on here, like a Linux distribution or something, that would be definitely something that could work on this. And yeah, I think it's just a great machine and a great find. So yes, $5 machine, completely approve. That said, if you liked today's video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Please hit the notification button. You'll be notified when I release new content, and subscribing really helps me out. Please leave a comment below. Definitely try everything in my power to respond to absolutely everybody's comments, and I really appreciate them. It helps me grow, helps the channel grow, and ultimately others will view that and ultimately learn as well. And I, again, appreciate everybody for taking the time to watch this video. And for now, we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.